Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Amateur Sports for today's Raptors Happy Hour live stream. Brand new week, brand new mini era, I guess, for the Raptors. Back finally from the West Coast road trip. We had the conclusion of it last night in an absolute thriller. Wow, what a performance by the Raptors. Double-digit underdogs against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Raptors win outright. Raptors take it and beat the Thunder. They go 4-1 on the West Coast road trip. They won their last 4 games. They lost first. So they won 4 games in a row from the West Coast road trip. Unbelievable. Sensational stuff. Huge props go out to the Raptors. We're going to discuss that today, the West Coast road trip and all the stories that came with it. Scotty Barnes. We'll talk about Manuel Quickley, Grady Dick. Talk about all those guys over the course of the show today. We're also going to be talking about Goga Bitadze, a guy I see the Raptors targeting potentially before the NBA trade deadline. A guy I want to see the Raptors targeting ahead of the NBA trade deadline. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about anything you guys want from the chat. And we'll just hang out, have a good time, talk Raps. That's what we do here on the Raptors Happy Hour. It's the show we bring you right here on this channel, live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 to 6 p.m. We talk about the latest things around the Raptors. I answer questions from the chat. We discuss, we react, all that great stuff. If you want to see more content like you see today, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy this particular rendition of the show along the way, do me a favor, take a second, hit that like button. Really does help us out here on the channel. Puts us into more YouTube recommended pages, helps grow the channel, and it only takes you a second. So, if you like the show, why not, right? All right. How's everyone's weekend? How are you faring with the weather? My goodness. It feels like in most places in North America, you got absolutely snowed in yesterday. If you're in Toronto like me, I'm downtown Toronto, you got maybe the worst of it. My goodness, 60 centimeters of snow. I was watching the NFL games at a friend's house yesterday, which is why I ended up missing the watch-along yesterday. Raptors vs. Thunder watch-along. I regrettably, not regrettably, I mean, I stand by my decision, but man, that would have been a really fun one to stream for, seeing them beat the Thunder. I did watch the game in full. We had 2 TVs. One of the TVs had the Raptors game on. One of the TVs had the Rams-Seahawks game on. I had a good time. It would have been really cool to hang out for that game. Anyways, I made my decision. Regardless, while I was watching those football games, about halfway, so like after the first game, like the snow was really coming down, and I knew I was in for a rough trip home. It actually wasn't that bad by the time I went home around like 10 o'clock. A lot of it had been plowed, but walking my dog this morning, the snow maintenance in my neighborhood was far inferior to that of my friend's neighborhood. Oh my God, there was so much snow yesterday. Truly crazy. I don't think I've ever experienced a snowfall quite like this. Like 60 centimeters. I'm not sure I've ever experienced that in my entire life living in the GTA. I even lived in Sudbury. Actually, it's a lie. In Sudbury, there was 1 or 2 occasions that were equivalent to this. But I don't think in the GTA I've ever experienced anything quite like this. Like it truly was. It was 60 fucking centimeters. It was up to my waist. It was insane, utterly ridiculous. So hopefully, all of you are able to, bunker down somewhere, and hopefully all of you are able to stay safe as well. But my goodness, we worked remotely today completely at my job because it was just crazy for people to get into the town. So I don't know what your weekend was like, but I had a very enjoyable weekend. But the snow, oh my God! And the thing is, it's gonna be freezing for like the next 2 weeks, so the snow's not going anywhere. It's just gonna stay. So, hopefully the next few days they can come plow the sidewalk by my apartment. It's brutal. I had to shovel a big walkway to get in and out, but yeah, brutal. Anyways, how's everyone doing in the chat? Let's say what's up to all the people joining us here today. We've got FTC Clip, so that's winner 1 on their additional account. Why not use the one account? Anyways, we've got I am Seto joining us. Thank you. Dylan Duarte, Kyle Bolatano, Chaotic Ace. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Yes, quickly we'll talk about the amazing week he had, the recognition he got for it. Dylan Duarte says, do you no longer stream on Twitch these days? I miss each of the West Coast games I had to open in office last week. I do not stream on Twitch anymore. I haven't it's got to be like 3 years since I last streamed on Twitch. So initially when I started streaming on Twitch, it was a decision that YouTube live streams at the time for the algorithm actually had a decent impact, a negative impact on your videos when you did live streams, because the YouTube algorithm treated your live streams and videos as if they were equal to each other. Therefore, my live streams, which weren't getting as many views as my videos were hindering the performance of my video. So I decided to take my live streams off of YouTube and onto Twitch. But YouTube has since done a lot of work to enhance their live streaming capabilities, and they now treat live streams and videos maybe not completely, but more separate as they used to. So that has allowed me to come back to the platform and decide I don't want to have like 2 different spots to bring the audience and bring the supporters of the channel. I wanted it all in one place to be nice and simple. So the further I go, the more I consolidate into one channel, and that's what we're doing right now. So no longer streaming on Twitch. Kyle Bolton said, what a West Coast road trip. Could have swept it, honestly. I mean, they could have. I'm not going to be greedy here. Part of me was like, part of me at 2 wins was like, you know what? If we were to lose the next 2 and go 2-3, I don't even think that's that bad. You know, it's not great, but that's not bad. 3-2, comfy. Hand me that. If you offered me 3-2 at the start of the West Coast road trip, I'm taking that. It's a tough thing to do, to play 5 games in a row away from home, especially on the West Coast, so far from home. A lot of traveling involved. I'm sure they were like gassed for that OKC game, yet they still pulled through and got the win. 4-1 the West Coast road trip. Again, incredible stuff. It's so happy for me, you know, as a fan, and so happy for the team as well. FDC close. Seahawks, Patriots. Yes. I hate the Patriots, so I am definitely pulling for the Seahawks. I have my uncle is a Seahawks fan, as is one of my best friends, so I'd be very happy for them to grab a win in the big game. I mean, as far as like if there's worse matchups out there, I would prefer to have been a neutral here, but I really don't like the Patriots, so I hope they do not win. There you go. 40-50 December Snow Jesus Toronto record. Yeah, I think I saw that. Somebody told me that today, rather. Largest snowfall in the city's history. Wow, that's incredible, isn't it? Largest snowfall in the city history. Wow, that's crazy. In a day. Up to 56 centimeters observed downtown, which is where I am. It has felt like that. Wow, that's crazy. Snowiest one in history. My dog is like, I have a basset hound, so she's got small legs. She's a small basset hound. She's like trying to hop through the snow. It looks like a bunny going through like a field of tall grass. Like she can't get through it all. It's crazy, honestly crazy. The Seahawks one, I said, I'm okay with it. At the end, in the end, all 4 of these teams who are in the championship games had won a Super Bowl relatively recently. So, you know, I like to see new winners, but Seahawks Patriots, another rematch is kind of cool to see both these teams with like completely different rosters back playing each other in this game like a decade later. It's impressive on both of their parts to be able to have achieved this, but the Seahawks, I think, are clearly the better team. I think they'll win, but it's definitely Patriots capable of doing it for sure. Momo Beats, by far the best strategy. Well, thank you. I'm glad you really like the channel. We're on the road to 20K. Yes, indeed. We just crept above 19,100. 20K will be a big milestone. I remember, not that like I'm not trying to appreciate the kind words. I don't want to make it like a competition between who's the best Raptors channel and whatnot. As far as I'm concerned, if one of the Raptors channels eats, we all eat, because they bring, if you have a banging video, gets like 100,000 views, which I've never done, but if somebody gets like 100,000 views, there's 100,000 people who might be interested in this channel as well, and all the other Raptors channels. So if one eats, we all eat. But I do remember starting doing Raptors content when I shifted the channel focus to Raptors content in early to mid 2020. I did look to the biggest Raptors channels, and it looked like 20K or so was like where they were at. And that was kind of like, at the time, like, wonder if I could ever get to 20K. And maybe we'll get there. I think at this point we should get there at some point. Maybe it won't be this year, but I think definitely next year, if not this year. So we'll keep pushing. I'll keep working hard. Thank you for the support, everybody. Still been rough. Feel like last storm was worse, though. I don't remember one last year being as bad as anywhere close to as bad as this. I don't remember any storm last year, really. In Toronto, at least. 2 years ago, there was like one day there was like a light dusty layer of snow, I think. I don't remember more than that 2 years ago. Last year, I remember like a few snowfalls here and there, but this is truly ridiculous, the amount of snow we got yesterday. But I'm working, pulling through. Had to. It's my fiance's birthday today, so I was expecting to take care of some, we'll call it housekeeping, after I went to work today. But I did not go to work, so I had to go run around the city while she was at physio today. Not the city, but like my neighborhood while she was at physio today through the snow to get stuff. So I felt the full throttle. Not quite. I mean, it was some of it was plowed, but I felt close to the full throttle of the snow today. I don't remember anything being this bad last year. Rising Stars players get revealed tonight. Yeah, well, I'll actually touch on that at the end of the show today. But I think the Raptors should have 2 players in the Rising Stars game. Indeed. Blue Week says, anyone better than Scotty in the East currently? The way they're playing right now. I don't know. It's probably Tyrese Maxey, but there was 5 All-Star starters. Not one of them was Scotty, but he's been an absolute monster as of late. I think that's our cue to get into this West Coast road trip. I said it off the start of the stream that we did here today, but West Coast road trips are horrible. They are incredibly difficult. It's 5 games all away from home in a row. Oftentimes when you're on the West Coast, you're playing very good teams. Lack of rest, not situated in your normal setting. All of these complications usually lead to difficulties in the win-loss category. So when this West Coast road trip started, I probably would have comfortably taken a 3-2 record. If you offered me 3-2, I would have said, you know what? We come out of it with a winning record. I think that's fine. We avoid any issues, avoid any disaster. 3-2 is fine. Honestly, when the Raptors won their second game of the road trip, I thought, like, you know what? 2-3 isn't even the end of the world. I won't take it, but I won't be like super upset. I'll be fine with like a 2-3 West Coast road trip. But for the Raptors to pull through, win 4 games in a row on the back end of the trip, go 4-1 on their West Coast road trip, and round it off with an unbelievable win over the defending champion, Western Conference 1 seed, Oklahoma City Thunder. With everything going on with the team, it's truly, truly sensational. So let's break it down a little further here. The OKC game in particular, Raptors were 11.5 point underdogs. That is a huge spread. That is a huge spread where you give very little chance on that team actually being able to win. The Raptors winning that game was unlikely. I wanted them to give a good account for themselves, but truthfully, going into that game, even like leading up to that game, the week leading up to that game, I was concerned. Look, the Thunder, sure they're missing guys, but they have had their way with a lot of teams this season. And for the Raptors, an absolute scheduling nightmare. That was the last leg of their West Coast road trip, which I talked about how difficult it is. But that is the 5th game out of 5 on the West Coast. Likely, team is going to be gassed going into a game like that. Not to mention, again, it is against the Thunder in Oklahoma City. That is such a difficult game. So for the Raptors to be able to pull through that, it is extraordinarily impressive, and it has to. People around the league have no choice whatsoever but to take notice of that and the performance it was. Now, I saw some articles that discussed this game a little bit further and put a bit of the blame of the game on OKC's lack of depth and the injuries that they have. But you know what? That's a crock of shit. Like, sure, they're missing guys, but the Raptors have been dealing with significant injuries all throughout the season. They dealt with a couple in this game in particular. And again, 5th game of 5 on the West Coast road trip at OKC. Let's give this team a little bit of credit here, okay? No Jakob Poeltl once again for this one. They haven't had him for most of the games this season. No Colin Murray-Boyles. So there was, at times, lineups in this game where the Raptors, the tallest guy on the court, was like 6'6", 6'7". And sometimes, at times in this game, the tallest player on the court for the Raptors was like Grady Dick. So you want to talk to me about unavailability? We were feeling it and still managed to beat the Thunder. Huge shout-outs to Scotty Barnes for the way he played defensively in this game. A huge shout-outs to Emmanuel Quickley for how he played in this game, and particularly how he closed in this game. Shed was great. Walter was great. Grady Dick was great. We got the depth that the OKC Thunder did not out of this game. But in the end, the Raptors have 8 players who score 9 or more points. So even though we weren't able to match the physicality and the size the Thunder possessed, the Raptors were still able to come through and win this game. Maybe a little bit messy, but we brought the Thunder's level down and were able to capitalize and were able to win in the clutch. And again, a very large reason why the Raptors were able to accomplish that is the sensational defensive play of Scotty Barnes once again. It's important to, realize here that the Raptors are trying to bring in this defensive-minded mentality going into the season, but that was to kind of mask the fact that it wasn't supposed to be a super talented defensive team. After all, Scotty Barnes wasn't regarded like this defensively coming into the season, but the players around him, you think of the starting 5. Jakob Poeltl is a good defender, but he's never really been available this season. So you have a guy like Mal McKillers, who's a neat and tidy player, but not a great defender. Not one of the better defensive teams in the NBA's anchor of a center. Definitely can't have that. Brandon Ingram's not a great defender. RJ Barrett's not a good defender. Emmanuel Quickley's not a great defender. And Barnes, just from how exceptional he's been on that end of the floor, is making those players around him better defensively, and he is willing this team into one of the best defenses in the NBA. It's fantastic. And what really highlighted all this incredible defensive plays showcased throughout the season is late in the game, the Raptors needed a stop. Chet Holmgren rises up. 7'1", Chet Holmgren rises up in mid-range. Scotty Barnes blocks it, helps come away with the rebound as well. To be able to pull that off, truly spectacular. Barnes, from what I saw, leads the NBA in clutch steals plus blocks this season. I think he has 8 of those this season. But on the season as a whole, we don't even need to cherry pick a sample size or anything. Scotty Barnes leads the entire NBA in steals plus blocks this season. He has 131, 69 blocks, and 62 steals. Closely following behind is Tyrese Maxey. Then you have Derek White, Evan Mobley, Jay Huff, and Victor Wembanyama at 6. Granted, who's missed a lot of games this season. But Scotty Barnes leading the way in steals plus blocks this season. A lot of where the Raptors have had success this season has felt like not to put them down or anything, but the Raptors often this season have won the games where they're not at their best. And I asked this maybe even 2 months ago now. Is this a case of the Raptors are getting lucky, or is it a case this is a good team and good teams find a way to win? I kind of was cautious about what I was saying there. But in the end, I kind of felt like this is a good team that they're just finding ways to win even when they aren't playing well. But again, it just feels like throughout so much of this season, when the Raptors aren't at their best, aren't playing their best basketball, they're able to get the stops. They're able to do enough to win, especially in the clutch. They have so often found ways to get over the line in the clutch in games where, for the past 2 years, they find ways to lose games. This year, they find ways to win games. And I think a very, very large reason why is the incredible defensive level that Barnes gives on pretty much a night-to-night basis. So I have to give him a ton of credit. In the Defensive Player of the Year conversation right now, Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren are the favorite. I think it's basically going to boil down to, if Victor Wembanyama plays enough games, he's going to win the award, and he deserves it. He has to meet the 65-game threshold. He can only miss 3 more games for the rest of the season. If he plays 65 games, that's the best defensive player in the NBA. He's going to win it. If he doesn't, it's probably going to be Chet, as long as Chet meets the threshold of games, which he's been relatively healthy this year. He probably will. And then there's Rudy Gobert, kind of trickling a bit lower than them in the conversation. But right now, I don't think there's 4 better defenders in the NBA than Scotty Barnes. I definitely believe, looking at it right now, Scotty Barnes is playing like the 4th best. You could even make a case he's been a top 3 defender this season. As we keep going through the season, if the Raptors can maintain levels like this, where, my goodness, this is a top 4. This Raptors team is a top 4 defense in the NBA. They're top 4 in defensive rating right now. This Raptors team on paper should be nowhere near this. I kind of was hoping this season we'd be middle of the pack defense. Let's make our offense maybe top 10 and propel us forward. To be top 4 over halfway through the season, I don't want to give not to give all the credit to Scotty Barnes, because a lot of people are chipping in, doing good work. But for the level that Scotty Barnes brings on a night-to-night basis, it has done extraordinary things for the Raptors this season and on this West Coast road trip. He better be an all defense player at this point. We got a long way to go. But at this point, he would absolutely be all defense. He needs to be in Defensive Player of the Year conversations, and I think he is starting to kind of get into that mix now as a result of the play this season, which I alluded to. He's better be an all-star. It could be an all-star, all-defense season with maybe even long way to go, but Defensive Player of the Year considerations in the form of maybe being a finalist. And if the Raptors are a top 4 seed in the East, which there's again a long way to go there, all NBA is not out of the picture. Absolutely not. Andrew says, hopefully Scotty will get Giannis' start in the NBA. In the NBA All-Star game. So All-Star game is injury reserves. I actually don't know how it will work for starting spots. They probably will go to the player who finished 6th in the count. I don't think that there's any discretion there. For All-Star reserves, it's picked purely by coaches. I think he'll get in. And as for injured reserves, unless it's changed this year, injured reserves are picked purely by Adam Silver. Adam Silver just literally chooses a player to be an injured reserve. A couple years ago, Scotty Barnes was an All-Star, and he was an All-Star because Adam Silver literally handpicked him to be one. So 3 years ago. I think Barnes is in. I think Barnes has to be in. It'd be a true disservice to the sport of basketball for Scotty Barnes not to be in as an All-Star this year. Blue Week says Philly down 50. Yes, I am seeing that here. I've got ESPN bill. Philly just lost 130-93 to the Charlotte Hornets. Obviously bad. Charlotte are kind of sneakily turning into a decent team. I must say, but yeah, that's a pretty bad loss for Philly, for real. Steve Stevens says, imagine we still had OG on this current roster minus a couple dead weight. Yeah. OG would be nice, no doubt. Happy Monday, Daniel Bray Sports Highlights. Cobble Town says, see if Jacoby can clamp up Brunson on their upcoming games. Jacoby did an excellent job against Shea yesterday. Gotta say, wow, what a game from Jacoby Walter, stepping up to play a guy like Shea that well. Was it like perfect for the game? No, but you're probably not going to have a perfect game against the reigning NBA MVP. But Jacoby was excellent. He was a plus 12 in the game. Shea, still Shea, 8 of 11, 24 points, but hounded him, made it tougher. Made it tougher for him. Can't dribble, ass, waste man. No, I think OG Anunoby's very, very good, actually. And I do miss him. I do miss him here. For real. Anyways, on Immanuel Quickley, though, he was involved in the trade. Immanuel Quickley, it's no secret, Immanuel Quickley has not had a great season of basketball for the Raptors, but how about an unbelievable week? And, I said Scotty Barnes was the driving force of the West Coast road trip for his defense. Despite that, you might still make the case the MVP of the road trip was Immanuel Quickley. At the end of the day, in those 4 wins, Immanuel Quickley, as a result of how he played in those games, has been rewarded with the Eastern Conference Player of the Week nod. Scotty Barnes, surprisingly, actually a little bit to me, wasn't even a finalist for that. But Immanuel Quickley is named Eastern Conference Player of the Week. I'm not sure, actually. It is, I was going to say, is that his first time? It is his first time. I would say it was likely it was. Shout out to him, man. I mean, to come through what has been a tough season in a tough environment on the West Coast and produce to this level is exceptional, and you need to give so much credit to it. Over the course of the West Coast road trip, you have 25.3 points. That included the 40-point game against the Golden State Warriors, which equaled a career high. However, Immanuel Quickley, that 40-point game was the single most efficient 40-point game in NBA history. If you look at true shooting percentage, which is the best stat, in my opinion, at measuring efficiency, superior to that of effective field goal percentage, which he would be second. But by true shooting percentage, this was the most efficient 40-point game in NBA history. That is unbelievable. And backed it up. Not sensational against the Kings, but a super quality 18 points, 6 of 12 from the field. Then 20 points against Portland, 9 of 15. Then 23 points against OKC, including some huge buckets in the clutch, couple threes in the clutch, and clutch free throws to seal the deal. That along with, what was I going to say? Oh, that along with going 6 of 10 from 3. What a road trip. Eastern Conference Player of the Week for Immanuel Quickley. Excellent to see. He's, been through, again, tough run of things this season. He hasn't played well in the season as a whole. That's not a secret. We can look at let's just look at his basketball reference page where he's averaging, last I checked it was 16 points. It's probably around 16 and a half, maybe even 7 at this point, 17. Yeah, just above 17 points per game now for Quickley. Starting to creep these numbers back up a little bit. 44% from the field, which is fine. Almost 37% from 3, which we want to see continue to go up, but it's okay. 6.2 assists. He's starting to find his footing here, and he's having to do it with a little bit less touches than he's used to with the addition of Brandon Ingram to the team. He's been healthy this year. He's only missed a couple of games so far this season. His true shooting percentage is 57.5. It's turning into a fine season now for Immanuel Quickley. The issue is he's making $32.5 million, and he hasn't looked like that this season up until this week where he's looked like maybe even better than $32.5 million player. If he can keep these levels relatively the same as this road trip, maybe not quite to the, he's not going to be Eastern Conference Player of the Week every week, then it'll start to justify this price tag on him a whole lot more. We got asked early in the season about he wasn't performing well, and he said basically he doesn't do the up and down stuff. He just works every day to be better. Here's what he said recently. I pulled this from Omer Osman, good aggregator of Raptors news on Twitter. But here's what Immanuel Quickley had to say after the game when he was asked about basically the ups and downs of the season.
In this road trip, you really kind of caught fire a little bit.
Sorry,
And just for yourself, I mean, this road trip, you really kind of caught fire a little bit. Any particular reason, or is it just you feeling like
I didn't catch fire. I told you I don't do that up and down stuff. When stuff going good, everybody want to be, but when stuff going not so good to other people's eyes, then everybody want to have a problem. But I'm somebody that stay even keeled throughout the whole thing. I'm gonna keep continuing to work, keep continuing to watch the film, taking care of my body, and trusting in God. That's probably the biggest part.
that's a really good way to answer. You know, he could have easily. So early, well, okay. There's kind of two ways to look at it a little bit. Saying sensitive IQ, I actually couldn't disagree more with saying something like that. It seems to me like he is very level-headed about the situation. This is consistent with the way he was kind of treating the situation early in the season. So there's kind of good and bad to that. Because early in the season, he wasn't playing. He was really poor to start the season. And that was sort of his answer. He doesn't really worry about that. He's gonna work on his game. He's gonna, work on himself to just play his game. And he's gonna trust that. I didn't really like that because I think it was important at the time to you should acknowledge that the expectations are greater of you than what you are producing on the court. So at least it's been consistent. He could have easily in a situation like this been this is who I am. I told you guys I could you guys knew I knew I could be this good, something like that. I don't know. He could have easily taken that route of beefing up his game, but instead, he played it down a little bit more and just said he's going to continue to work. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that in this instance. So at least he's keeping level-headed about the situation. He's not panicking, at least on the outside. Maybe he is on the inside, but again, within with the way he portrays himself publicly, he's staying even keel about the situation, and I do think that is good to go through. I don't think at all this is a case of Emmanuel Quigley being sensitive, and to be honest, I don't really understand at all how you could watch that clip and perceive it to be that. It doesn't seem like he's being sensitive about the situation at all. Where I've been very critical of Emmanuel Quigley at times this season, and I think rightfully so, because he hasn't been as good as he should be, and he's getting paid a lot of money. He's getting paid $32.5 million, and we expected growth from him with that contract. But if anything, we've maybe so far this season, other than this week, seen regression from the player. But I've never really felt like Emmanuel Quigley was a bad player. A lot of people have labeled him to be bad. He's been making the Raptors worse, essentially. We're worse off with him. That's how bad he's been. I disagree with that. Emmanuel Quigley's been fine. It's just, there's different expectations that are put upon a player when you are rewarded with, such finances as a $175 million contract. Now, if you're making $15 million, we'd be over the moon with his play. But the standards are different when you're on that sort of money. So I've never really subscribed to the thought process that we're better without him. It'd be better to just not play him. There was a game he got injured. We might actually play well without him on the court. Disagree with that. Statistically, there's not really anything to necessarily disprove or back it up. But if you look at on-off stuff, which isn't perfect, it's maybe a decent guide to go with. But net rating with him on the floor this season is plus 2.53. Without him, it's plus 1.45. Not that big of a difference, but there's definitely nothing that indicates we're better off without him. I just think anyone who would suggest that is truly crazy, and that's a really unfair way to label him as well. You can be critical of his game, say he needs to be better, we need to step up. We're trying to be a good team this year, and that's true. But to say we're just better not playing him is asinine. Some people were saying that when he was out injured. Real false thing. The Raptors will win against the Knicks. Pretty sure Knicks will be on a back-to-back. CMB should be back. Maybe Yak. CMB should be back. I'm personally not holding out a ton of hope for Yak. He left the West Coast road trip early to go back to Toronto to seek some specialist for his back or something. Really ugly situation right now. Oh man, it's bad. I feel for Yak, but I'm also a little also a little irate, to be honest, that the Raptors were so quick to, give this lengthy and large extension to him, and he has literally not had one healthy game since that point. That's a problem. And the Raptors have done themselves, it's starting to look like the Raptors have given themselves these very humongous handcuffs on building the team unless they move off of him quickly. But I don't know. I could see why a team is not interested in taking that, for sure. The Knicks, they will be on a back-to-back. They play Sacramento the night before in New York. So they'll have to travel overnight to go to Toronto. That's not that large. That's not that large of a trip. Nathan McLeod joining us. Thanks so much. Am I going to any Raptors games soon? Definitely not soon. I to be honest, at this point, I'd be a bit surprised to go to any games this season. I like streaming the games. I like hanging out here with the chat. And I like not paying for tickets. They're cheaper this year, but I like not paying for expensive tickets. And then when you pay for expensive tickets, you end up paying more for stuff you do around the arena. I don't know. I'm cool to chill here. And I love going to Raptor game, but I'm okay to watch with you guys as well. Momo Beat says, I think playing with Shed and having him off the ball is helping his game. That is part of it as well. That has been a large part of some of the successes this week. The statistics absolutely do back this up. If we look at how Quickly has played with Jamal Shed this season, Mayo Quickly in the minutes with Jamal Shed, he goes from 17.8 points per game, per 75 possessions up to 25.6. That is a massive increase. His assists don't drop that much either from being more off ball, only 1.2 assists down compared to without Jamal Shed. True shooting goes up 3.2%. His free throw attempt rate goes up. His 3-point percentage goes up 8%. So he's getting much better looks more often when he's playing with Jamal Shed. Definitely a testament to where he's more comfortable playing positionally. It's not like a simple task of just maneuvering the starting five to make Jamal Shed like a starting point or anything. I also as much as I like Jamal Shed, I don't believe he's the caliber player to be a starting point guard, at least for the moment. So it's a bit difficult, but when we can integrate these two into lineups together, there's success. It's very clear. We have a large sample now to say it's very clear there is success when these two are playing together, which is awesome. What is the latest you're hearing about the Yak injury? Andre the Gamer 905 asks. So I'm not I'm not hearing anything. I'm just, I have access to the same information that you guys have, but people are reporting that there is worry about there's worry about the back issue. There's worry that it's a chronic back issue, and there's use the word again. There is worry that this is not the end, and even close to the end of it. It could be a very long-term thing that Jakob Poeltl is going to have to deal with. Hence why I feel so irate about the contract that he is on right now. Wow. I mean, how poorly timed with that extension. That could go down as one of the worst contracts. And that could be the worst, honestly, in a couple of years. It's not yet, because he's only on 19.5 right now. It'll be 19.5 next year. Then it goes up to 28 per season for the next 3 seasons. We could be in trouble when we get there. Hoping for the best, because when he's healthy, he's a terrific center. But it's looking poor right now. That's the mentality you want, though. If you let the noise bring him down, he could have remained horrible, but he took criticism and used it to fuel improvements. Yeah, I'm fine with the mentality. It's just I also think if you're playing poorly, there should be a little bit of you should take a little bit of accountability, essentially. You should say I gotta be better. I gotta step up. I'm gonna work to step up. I'm gonna put in the work. I'm gonna put in the work to be better for the team. I think that's fine to say instead of just I don't do ups and downs. I don't mind it from this frame of he's doing well. He's not trying to let it get to his head or anything. But I think I do like seeing a little bit of accountability taken. But that's his process, whatever. I'll retract any complaints if he's consistently playing like a $32.5 million player. You do what works for you, right? Gary says, I still feel they should be dealt in this right trade scenario, but at least his recent play removes a negative energy that's been over things up to this point. He's a likable player. Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm not gonna react to like 1 week and all of a sudden change my stance. I do still feel like an interest in wanting to trade him at the deadline if there's an improvement to be made to the team. Again, I'm not like dying to get off these. I'm not dying to trade him or anything like that, but if an opportunity presents itself, I'm not gonna really want to hold on to him. I think part of like any trade you make here is still going to be a case of, the other team is going to do us a favor by taking this contract. That's the way it seemed. One week as happy as I am about it isn't just going to change that out of nowhere. You know what I mean? To be fair, nobody was expecting this to happen. The back problems came out of nowhere. Yeah, it's. I'd like some further I'd like some more information because he clearly. Here's just my thought process. He clearly started the season unhealthy. From day one, it looked like he wasn't right. He was hurt. I don't know when the injury was picked up. I don't know what caused it, if anything. I'd just be really upset if this contract was done with the knowledge that there are some back problems that he's working through. That I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe there was literally no intersection of those events, and he signed the contract, and all of a sudden, fate had it. We got really unlucky. He got really unlucky, or rather lucky, I guess you could say, that the contract was already done. That's true. I'm not trying to my anger about it isn't necessarily directed towards Pirtle because it's not his fault. Like injuries can linger. You can put in a ton of work. Injuries can linger. I have done so much rehab, so much work on my knee after 2.5 years post ACL surgery, and I'm still quite far away from being 100%. I won't ever be 100, but I'm pretty ways from being even 90%. I'd say I'm not even currently at 80%. So you can put in work, and it just doesn't go your way there. But I'm just mad in general. I'm mad. I'm in pain all the time. I'm not mad at me. I'm not mad at anyone else. I'm just mad about it. Right? Some things you can't control, but you can still be upset about them. Would I trade for Ayo Dosunmu for a package of either RJ or Jakob? No, because Dosunmu is quite a bit of a downgrade. I don't mind Ayo Dosunmu as a player. That's quite a bit of a downgrade. And also contract-wise, you're gonna be pretty pressed to figure out how to get the money to make that work. Dosunmu makes $8 million a year, I think. Okay, 7.5, then he's a UFA. Yeah, and you trade for him, you're getting off the books at least, but no, I don't see a need to go trade for Ayo Dosunmu at the moment. Jake Nader says, it helps as well that IQ is the most consistent three-point shooter we have. We're the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA. It's not saying much, but yes, he is our most reliable three-point shooter. So when he's playing off ball, Shed has him as an option. Meanwhile, IQ doesn't have the same luxuries on the ball. That's an interesting point as well, actually. Quickly being the best shooter in terms, maybe not actually, probably in percentages as well, but quickly being the best shooter makes it a bit easier for Jamal Shed to play with him too, because Jamal Shed has that avenue for setting up play because of the spacing there, and it makes Jamal Shed's job as a point guard easier. So, as much as it definitely, I feel like Jamal Shed helps Quickly more than Quickly helps Shed. I hadn't considered that it's good for Jamal Shed's game to be able to play with an off guard like Quickly, who can also take some of the ball handling load off him. That's actually a really good point. If he's not going to play for 5 years, he should retire. Well, I don't think it's going to be a 5-year issue, but it looks like it could be a lingering issue for quite some time. He's definitely putting in a lot of work to fix it. But back issues, especially for 7-footers, so that it's possible that's no joke, right? That could be a problem. for sure. One guy we haven't talked about really a lot on this from this road trip is Grady Dick. Grady Dick is kind of, I think even maybe even a little bit quietly has been great on this West Coast road trip. He's played every game this season. And he struggled. Like, he's averaging 6.7 points per game. That'd be by far a career low. 3-point percentage was down to 31. Now it's getting up to 32. But things are hopefully starting to point in the right direction. Last 4 games, he averaged 10.3 points. He had 10 points plus in the last 4 games. I think big thing is that in 3 out of 4 of these games, he had at least 2 threes made. He had 2 threes made. He had 1 3 made in the other one. And on top of the 3-point shots starting to fall a lot more often, his finishing at the rim on this road trip has been great. Now, again, these are small sample sizes that we're working with, but the rim finishing was noticeably improved in the last week or two. That's great to see. And I'm just hoping that this is the confidence boost that we need and we've been waiting for him, because there is a really good player there. And if he can find anywhere close to being that really good player, that's the type of player that truly has an impact on any team with the way he can shoot. He's been a positive for the Raptors the last 4 games, where a lot of this season he has been a negative. I think it's quite important for the upcoming games that Darko runs with this, because he's definitely been at a loss for confidence in a lot of occasions this season. You definitely want him to continue to ride this wave and keep that confidence up. That's going to do wonders for this team. Absolutely, get the rhythm going. That's so important as a shooter. You don't want your shooter. You don't want anybody, but you don't want any shooter to be thinking about the shot. It should just come naturally. That is where an athlete is at their best, when they're playing naturally. And I think for a lot of season, Grady hasn't been. Maybe he's starting to now, and that's great. Right? Okay. Would you be okay with trading for Marvin Bagley? No, to be honest. Well, depends what you give up. I mean, sure. As a depth, sure. I do. This is a good segue, actually. I actually did. There's one guy I'm looking at here. We've thrown around a lot of names for who the Raptors could get to shore up their lack of size in the team, lack of depth in the center position. We have really felt the lack of depth of the center position this season, because Jakob Poeltl has only played in 20 of the 48 games, and in those 20 games he wasn't even healthy. He wasn't even operating near his best. So we really felt the lack of presence there as far as the biggest concern. Now, we haven't shown it record-wise. Raptors been great this season, but feels like we're still leaving some meat on the bone, and we should be even better. And I think addressing the backup center spot would go a long way to helping that. So this is the guy I have my eyes on to fix this depth issue. And I'm not going with a flashy name or anything here. The flashier names out there are guys like Daron Sharp, who pretty young center, who provides quality minutes, who can get better. That is a guy I'd be interested in, no doubt. That is a guy I'd be interested in. But I want to take it a bit more realistic, because I look at the Brooklyn Nets. It's a rebuilding team. They're trying to get better. I don't really see why the Brooklyn Nets would want to trade away a productive young big. Feels like that's the type of player you want to keep a hold of and continue to build your team with. But I think I found a player here that not only helps the Raptors and satisfies the need to bring in size to the team, but I think it's also a player that the team that we're talking about would definitely consider trading. And that player is Goga Bitadze on the Orlando Magic. Ever since he's moved to the Magic from the Indiana Pacers, he has started to bring more quality minutes to the table, more winning minutes to the table. This season, played in 40 games, 6 points per game, 5 rebounds, decent field goal percentage, quality, and he's 6'11". He's been a relatively consistent contributor to this Orlando team for the last 3 seasons, including this one. And he's a good defender to go with it. Now, the Raptors just don't have the size for certain matchups. I know the Raptors won 4 games in a row at the time that we're recording this here. 4 games in a row, the West Coast road trip. The 2 games before that, they lost. One of the key reasons why they couldn't compete with the Clippers or the Lakers was they had nobody who could deal with, for the Clippers, Ivica Zubac, and for the Lakers, DeAndre Ayton, who went 10 of 10 from the field in that game. Yes, Colin Murray-Boyles is, a good player who can play the 5. Yes, Mohamed Kilstree is a great player who can play the 5. Yes, Scotty Barnes is an excellent player who can definitely play the 5. But sometimes you're just dealing with size. You do not have a body to throw at them when Jakob Poeltl is out. And signs are starting to point towards a relatively dire situation with his back. This is something that needs to be addressed. If you want to be a serious team, and the Raptors, look, they're 10 games above 500. They are the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. This is a team that could definitely put together a decent run of playoffs. If you want to give them a fair shot at the playoffs here, you'd be doing them a disservice not acquiring a big like this. And I think for Goga Bitadze, he brings in quality minutes to the team and is the exact type of player we should be looking for right now. I'm not super invested into going big fish hunting right now. I think this is a reasonable trade we can make for a player that the Magic would reasonably have a desire to trade. The reason I feel like that is that Wendell Carter is their starter, and Bitadze's been their backup. Well, there's been a lengthy injury to Mo Wagner. Well, Mo Wagner's back. Mo Wagner in the last 5 games for the Magic has played in 4 of them. And he's getting steady minutes in that stretch. Goga Bitadze, as a result, in the last 4 games, other than this game he started, because this game Wendell Carter missed, so he started this game. Other than that, his minutes in the last 4 games have been lower than they have been previously. Last game, he only played 5 minutes and 18 seconds. He'd been getting pretty steady, high teens. That's starting to drop away for him. So I could see the Magic thinking, we've got Mo Wagner, we've got Wendell Carter, maybe we could get some sort of assets for him. And it's not a trade that's super difficult to execute. He's making $8.3 million this year. Then it goes down to $7.6 million next year. There's some players I've looked at here, like Brook Lopez or Kevon Looney, as maybe this guy could bring something to the team and help us out for the rest of the season. But I don't feel I feel like that's a this season thing. I don't feel like that helps us next season. I think Bitadze helps us this season. I think he helps us next season. And I think that this is the sort of trade that could be pulled off by the Raptors. But to put it to the test, let's try and piece together what exactly this trade could look like for Orlando to want to do this. Because, this is a team that's in the East with us. This is a team relatively close to the standings with us. So it's got to be something that is beneficial to them as well if we're getting a player who's going to give us good minutes. But again, having 2 centers already getting minutes, you don't really need a third. So maybe there's a way the Raptors can pull this off. The Magic aren't a great 3-point shooting team who could maybe benefit with some extra perimeter defense. Abaji, I know he hasn't shot well this season, but I think there's desire to maybe take that on, and it's an expiring contract to free up cap space in the offseason. I think that's something the Orlando Magic would certainly consider entertaining from a trade perspective. On top of that, how far are we away? Just to check, financially speaking, we're 1.95 million away from this trade being able to come to fruition. So to do that, would it suck? Could it be? I don't know if they'd do Garrett Temple. Maybe throw a young big to shore up that third big spot for them still. I'm okay to move on. Would this do it? Are we still a bit off? So that would do it. So maybe they'd be enticed by a younger big they could still work with a little bit if that's helping balance the salary. I'd be a touch reluctant to move Walter or Grady Dick to do this. I'd be a touch reluctant. But I don't think I'd find that impossible. Now, to sweeten this, it's not going to be a first, but could you sweeten this with a Lakers second round pick or maybe a second round pick from us going forward? I don't know if I'm being overly lenient on my Raptors side or biased towards my Raptors side here. I don't think that this is I don't think this is necessarily one the Magic would absolutely take, but I think it's one that would be in their considerations. Adding some draft capital, expiring salary, and a guy that can help you this season. Still not giving up on the depth completely in that position with Jonathan Mobo there. I think there's something to it there. Could definitely like make this even better. I think if you do a guy like Grady Dick, I don't even think you need to throw in the pick. This one makes me a little bit more reluctant to do it, and it doesn't even work. So let's say we take out the pick. Now the Raptors need to cut $3 million. Okay, so let's see if we can find. Let's say we find $3 million from the Magic. So it wouldn't be Jason. That kind of makes it a bit murky. That makes it a bit more difficult. So probably wouldn't even be Grady Dick anyways. Anyways, point I'm trying to make here is there's a pathway to this trade. We kind of saw it there. I could see the Magic having desire to get some assets for what now might be their third choice center. The Raptors fill a major positional need. I feel like it's a bit of a win-win scenario. So, of all the guys that have been rumored to Raptors having interest in, or fans have said, like, this is a guy I'm interested in, I think this one is not only one of the better options of players the Raptors could pick up, it's seemingly the most attainable of those players, too. So, Goga Bitadze, for me, I'd be thrilled to pick him up before the deadline. What do you guys think? Am I gassing him up too much, or what? Goga seems like a guy for the taking here. Let's try to make this happen. No? Robert Williams? What's his contract at? Thing is, like, the reliability of it, he's always injured, man. 13.285 contract. It's expiring, so we get the cap space into the season. He is, I mean, you want to talk about people that are always hurt. Oh, my God. Robert Williams is always hurt. So it's a bit of a reliability issue. He's not the player that he used to be. He's played in 31 games this season. So he's missed some games. And it's harder to stack up that money. Let's see. Let's just try it. Let's try. So, Abaji, obviously. And then we need to come up with like $7 million more. Like, if we did Grady Dick, it doesn't do it. We still need to cut $1.9 million. I don't know how we even get financially. I don't even know how we get to this. Like, it'd have to be like Pirtle, which they obviously don't want, and then we'd have to add on like another player from here. Like, I don't even know. Like Thibault, and then we put in a Baji or something. It wouldn't even be enough. If it's like, I have to be like Grady Dick. Yeah. Not quite. 300,000. Anyways, that's like right there. But that's like, what the hell are we doing? I don't see like a pretty reasonable structure financially to trade for Robert Williams. Nor am I like super interested in, to be honest. Yeah. I like the trade, but Goga doesn't stretch the floor. I think a stretch big would unclog our offense. And we have that. Mama Killers really does that. Like a 7-footer who's spacing the floor. A 7-footer who's adept on defense and is spacing the floor. You're not getting for, Goga money. Like that type of player is Brook Lopez, who I'm sure would help out the team a little bit, but he's certainly washed. 7-footers who can protect the rim and shoot. Those are hard to get. You want those. Everyone wants those. 7-footers who can shoot, sure, like you can find those here and there. Those aren't super easy to get either. But I think the Raptors really need right now is rim protection. So, I see the necessity for shooting. I think that, shooting is important. I don't think it necessarily needs to be addressed in this trade for a big. I do, however, think it should be addressed elsewhere if it in a trade before the deadline. I think priority should be a big, but I think secondary to that, and I think both should try and be addressed, is to get some additional shooting team. Easier said than done, but something for the Raptors to strongly consider with the way they've played this season. Seems like they're trading Jakob for Sabonis. I've seen that. I'm not sure what that trade is going to look like. Signs are pointing in that direction, but there's still like a sticking point being the Pirtle contract sucks and the Kings don't want it. Definitely still a sticking point. So there's discussions ongoing based on what we're seeing. There's discussions ongoing between the Kings and the Raptors, but the Kings don't want that contract. So I don't see how the trade happens without that contract being involved, Anyways, last thing before we wrap it up, Rising Stars game. We're going to have the reveal of this in 30 minutes on who is going to be in the Rising Stars game. Colin Murray-Boyles and Jamal Shead are eligible, and on top of many other players, those two got to be in. The way they've played this season, Colin Murray-Boyles have better be in the Rising Stars game with his outstanding play, and certainly as well, I think Jamal Shead has a claim to a spot here. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's great experiences for those guys to be involved in games like this and be a part of All-Star Weekend. I wish them the best if they make it, because I won't be watching. I'm not watching All-Star shit this year. I don't know what I'll be doing, but I'm sure it'll be a better use of my time than watching anything from NBA All-Star Weekend. But I hope they're the best for them to get in, just for the notoriety of it all. But that's it from me for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of the Raptors Happy Hour. I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. for streams just like this. If you enjoyed, hit the subscribe button. For more. Also, make sure you've hit the like button. And I will see you on Wednesday, back at 5 p.m. Wednesday for the happy hour. And then we also have a watch party that day. It's a doubleheader, Raptors against the New York Knicks. Hope to see you there.